Hey everybody, my name is Jim Farmer. I'm the festival director of Out on Film. Thanks for joining us today. This is our 34th year of presenting stories for, by, and about our community and its allies. This is, however, our first hybrid event. We're having a very limited schedule in theater, and we're also having some virtual programs as well. Today's program is Everything Under the Rainbow Shorts, which is always one of my favorite shorts programs of the year. And we're lucky enough to have three filmmakers from this program. I'm gonna go around and let them introduce themselves, and then we will have some questions. So Ronnie, do you want to start?
Hi, my name is Ronnie Rose, and I'm a filmmaker from Los Angeles, California.
And your film is?
Want me to say anything else? I don't know.
and your film is?
Oh, my film is called The Makeup.
Okay, great. Shadi?
Hi, my name is Shadi Ghaheri. I'm a theater and film director, choreographer and writer, and I'm here with Swimming.
Great, thank you. And Billy?
Yes, I'm Billy Clift. I'm a film director, writer, producer, editor, and I'm director of No Goodbyes here today.
Great. This is such a strong program. I'm very excited to have this and have you all as well. So I just want to go around the room and just, if you could just tell us a little bit more about the film and when you made it, how long it took, that sort of thing. Why don't we just flip the order, and we'll start with Billy this time.
Certainly. No Goodbyes came to me when I was working on a documentary in Warsaw, Poland, and I was running around shooting this documentary about a painting that had been lost and had been given back to the Warsaw Museum that from a gay couple here in Los Angeles. And so I was going to all the museums, and I was looking around the Holocaust museums, and there was just nothing really about LGBT people in the Holocaust. And I knew that there was. So it really hit me when I came back home, which this was just before the pandemic hit us back home, that I really needed to do something about this. So I came across a wonderful playwright in Spain who writes plays about the Holocaust and LGBT people in the Holocaust. So I thought that would be the smartest thing for me to do, instead of read millions of books, is to coordinate with someone who has already done that, so that we could work back and forth and create a short film to start out with about love in the Holocaust, or how people were affected in the Holocaust in gay people. And it just, to me, this is an incredibly important part of our history that very few people know anything about. That in this particular instance, there would be a capo in a bunker situation, and a capo would be allowed to have an assistant, so to speak. And that assistant often could be a young gentleman and end up basically being a sex slave. These are things that people don't know anything about. We were also incredibly fortunate to get an actual Holocaust survivor to play a lead, so to speak, who an older gentleman, 94 years old, who spoke about the Holocaust in the past, because this is a narrative. It's not even though it is a true story, two stories smushed into one. It's not it wasn't him who this occurred to. Okay. It's a base of what's it about.
Okay. Shadi.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Billy, for sharing that. That's unbelievably valuable and strong. I don't know how to follow after that, to be honest. The story of Swimming is a story of two childhood friends that find themselves in early adulthood, not knowing who they are, craving for something in past that meant home and peace. And then now, just craving to spend a couple hours that is possible together at their spot at the beach. I had the privilege to collaborate very closely with the writer and performer of the piece, Sam Dash. We just very early on worked on the piece together, and then on the actual story. But the story is very simple but complicated because of how we hold some very specific identity politics and how we cannot hold any identity politics that we desire. So I'll just leave it there.
Thank you. And Ronnie.
First off, both of y'all, your films sound absolutely lovely, and I can't wait to see them. Just like getting to hear both of you talk about it, I'm like, this is so amazing. So I just had to preface with that. I think for my film, it actually, I feel very lucky that I got to be a part of this project because it almost didn't happen. The truth of the matter is that Eric James and Richard Klein, who were the producers and the writers on the project, had actually developed this entire thing with an entire other director. And because of happenstance, 6 days before principal, he had to withdraw. So they already casted, they already had a full crew. I had never worked with them before. And they were sprinting to try and find someone because all of the balls were in place. It was in the middle of pandemic, pre-vaccine rollout. So they had already done all these safety protocols to bring stuff together. And they're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And through a friend, they got my information and they actually looked at some of my photography and they liked it enough that they ended up contacting me and they sent me the script. And within like an hour, we were on the phone and they're like, do you think that you could come on board and do this in like 6 days? And it was terrifying because I was like, I don't know anyone. And I didn't meet the actors till the day that I walked on set. Mm-hmm. But it ended up being a really beautiful experience. And the thing that drew me to the project was, the premise of the story is a gentleman has kind of later in life come to terms with the fact that he's a gay man, and he had been in a long-term relationship with a woman and they were actually engaged. And for him, that woman was his best friend. And the film takes place in the first meeting between these two after their breakup has occurred. And it's really about them grappling with the idea of like, what does it mean to love someone? And are you capable of maneuvering through the recontextualization of losing the love you thought you wanted, but can you keep the love that you know you have, is really the question at its heart. And when I saw it and I saw the premise and I saw the paradoxes and complexities of the emotional landscape that both characters were attempting to maneuver through, I found it so compelling. And I was just immediately drawn to it. And so I personally felt really lucky to even get the opportunity to be part of it because, it almost wasn't a thing that I was ever going to get to have. And so, and the team and the actors and everyone across the board ended up being so remarkable that, I just feel incredibly fortunate to have been able to be part of it.
Thank you all. I know that you've touched on this earlier, but how personal were these stories for you all? We'll start with Shadi.
I can say how Sam and I collaborated on the piece was from just having the same concept or question about identity politics, because the story is about two men who one is a Black man who has a family of a child and a wife, and the other man is like a white queer, openly queer man who has a version of love for Zaid, the other character. And these two are somehow in need of each other and somehow in love with each other, and yet the circumstances of life put them in places that they have to perform specific way. I'm understanding and working. Did you lost me in a second?
Just for a second, if you just want to maybe repeat just a little bit of that, because we did lose you for about maybe 20 seconds or so.
Yeah, so I was saying I will identify myself as like an immigrant woman from Iran, and I myself am constantly and forever that I live in this country deal with the question of identity politics and love and existence that society requires of us.
Okay.
That is where the story like has been personal to me, but it is actually a story of Sam, and is a story that this question that you have more at the core of your question belongs to Sam, my collaborator, that is not here because just the directors were invited.
Gotcha. Okay. Ronnie.
I mean, I'm also in a similar boat that certain elements of the core of the story are not entirely mine, but I was fortunate enough to have people trust me with it. I know that this story was incredibly although like all stories that stem from, hi, welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Like all, do we want to pause? Let her introduce herself. Do you want me to keep going? What do you want me to do?
Why don't we keep going with this question, and then we'll give Michelle some time to introduce herself, and we can let her answer this question as well.
Perfect. So I'll rewind. In regards to how this story was personal to me, I felt fortunate that Eric and Richard, who are the writers, who a lot of the seeding for the story stemmed from very personal experiences to them, entrusted me to kind of take this story with a level of care. But even in reading it, I think it was something that what I found sort of remarkable about the script was it had stuff that was very particular to certain people's experience, but there was also these themes that existed throughout it that felt absolutely universal to the human condition and the experience of trying to maneuver with the very nature of love and connection and loss and grief and reconciliation. And so I felt like for me, it was impossible to not have elements of it that were relatable, but I also did feel a great sense of responsibility to try and maneuver with care, knowing specifically that Eric in particular had trusted me really greatly with this story that was very dear and personal to him.
Okay. Billy.
Personally, I mean, I've never experienced this particular experience, but it was very, very important to me to do something about this. It's really, really funny because when I did come back from Warsaw, I kept on saying, someone should do this. Someone should, and I finally went, Billy, you should be the one who does it. And I must admit, it was pretty miraculous as well. It went right into the whole COVID experience. We shot this last November in the middle of COVID, and I asked for financing and I received it within a week. It was one thing after the other that fell into place with this particular, as well as getting the 94-year-old Holocaust survivor to be the lead, as well as the other actors. It was just this little miracle that came together, and I just felt so obligated to be the one to tell this story because it was so deep within me that this was information that people did not know. We know so much about the Holocaust, but we know so little about the gay people who were actually experiencing it. And most of them, of course, were killed during it because they were considered the lowest of the low. They were below the things that would happen. I'm writing the feature right now, and I did that. I did the short as a proof of concept. Okay. And the feature is it's going to be quite brutal. But I've also come up with an amazing way to soften it at times so that people can have a breath. Okay. Anyway, it's very important politically as well, because we need to see what can be repeat again as usual.
Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. Michelle, let me just ask you just some basic questions. Earlier, we just had all of our filmmakers just introduce themselves, say a little bit about their film. And the question I just asked everybody was, how personal of a project was this for you?
Well, I'll just kind of answer all together. This actually, my partner passed away 5.5 years ago. So this was a very cathartic sort of way in which I work as a creator. You know, my very first film, Slip Away, was about being involved with an addict alcoholic. And I actually played the alcoholic addict in that short. And this time, the way I wrote my experience with, of course, some twists and turns. It's not a documentary, but it certainly is based on the experience I had with losing my partner. And that experience was, she passed away from complications from aortic aneurysm repair. And she did not tell me, we were together almost 14 years. She did not tell me even the notion that she might have even thought she had what is called a connective tissue disorder. So basically, if you and I get cut, we have, our bodies work to seal it. And what happens with people who have Marfan syndrome or any other type of connective tissue disorder, that process is very difficult and sometimes doesn't even happen. So the ways in which, surgeries are done or the way in which they heal the process is very different. And I created this project to, more than anything, to be able to have a forum in which to relay to other people my desire for them to speak to one another, whether they're in a gay relationship or, from all backgrounds, BIPOC or whatever, doesn't matter. If you're coupled in any way, the importance of honesty and communication and how vulnerability are vital to the perseverance of any relationship. I wanted it to serve as a little bit of a warning that when one isn't really truthful with the other, it can really lead to disastrous consequences. I mean, I like as a filmmaker to instigate questions. I want people to question. I want people at the end of the film going, if they're going with their partner, to be able to go, you don't have anything that you, I want that awkward conversation to happen, because just beautiful things can come from it. They can get closer, they can reveal, they can feel an impetus to share, or, well, maybe, it's just that one thing. I just wanted it to serve as a catalyst for anyone in any of these communities that, to be able to share those things that they would never share. Okay. And so that they become stronger allies together than, weaker apart. Okay. So, and I heard Mel say what he's filmed during the pandemic, and I did too. We started filming in mid-December of last year, and we had a very small crew, and who they acted as different. They did wore a lot of different hats, but we got it done, and it surely is a labor of love. And I actually love the short. I love them short as a medium in and of itself. My process with this was, I tried it at 60 pages. I had it at 80 pages, and it just lost something in the impact of when it was written as a short. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to mirror, this idea of when the kind of loss that this portrays is something called complicated grief, complicated loss, complicated grief, because there's a myriad of different things involved with it. And I wanted the film to show what it's like to be in this. So short cuts going from lightness to dark, from going to sort of like playing with time and jumping, because that's how the grief process is. And it just worked so well in the short form, as opposed to making it longer and a full feature length.
Okay, great. I was saying earlier, this is Everything Under the Rainbow, and this is such a great collection of films. So thank you all for doing this. I wanted to ask you all about this, because each of the films in this program and each of the filmmakers here, I mean, you all tell very complex stories. I mean, and I guess the question I have for you is, how do you go about telling such a complicated, complex story and do it all in the time frame that you do? I mean, some of these shorts are a little bit longer, some of them are close to 25 minutes, some of them are a little bit shorter. But how do all of you just go about just getting all you need to tell and doing it so well in a compressed period of time? Let's start with Ronnie.
Oof, that is an amazing question, and that is, I think that's such a challenging question. I mean, you look at, like, Tarkovsky, like, arguably one of the greatest filmmakers in cinema history, he was terrified he noted in like one of his books, he was terrified to do shorts because they're inherently, he's like, that's such a small amount of real estate. It's so hard to even conceptually imagine how you tell an entire story in this thing. And shorts are so hard. They're so hard because it does require so much in terms of story economics and like what is the most precise way to convey the greatest amount of information in the shortest period of time while still considering that like the quintessential element of film is tempo and pacing because it's a medium of time itself. And like it's hard. It is so hard. Yeah, I don't know if I have a good answer because I feel like everything I make, I'm still trying to learn how to actually get better at it. And I think that shorts as a medium in and of themselves are sometimes overlooked. I think a lot of people treat them almost like, it's like training wheels to like a real film or like a lesser form of film. And I actually think that that's a great tragedy in the perception, because I think that to make a truly impactful short, I think in certain ways it's almost harder than having a larger period of time to fill. Okay. Everything has to be intentional.
Okay. Billy.
It actually came together quite easily. I was actually surprised. The short medium is not my typical place. So, I mean, besides doing over 50 music videos, which kind of gave me an idea of how to do it, is get to the point, and that did help. And having someone to work with, as I said, as a co-writer in this particular instance, that did help me as well. Especially with such a major subject as what I decided to choose, being in the Holocaust. But I felt that it was incredibly successful. It is the longest one. It probably is your longest one, your 25-minute. And I couldn't find myself to cut anything else out of it. And I just figured I wasn't even worried whether it would get into film festivals. Of course, I hoped it would, but it was crucial to me that it better say everything it needs to say in whatever time it has. Unfortunately, I believe it did. I believe it hit all the notes that it needed to hit. And hopefully what I want, of course, is the curiosity of more information from these three people that are the real stars in this, that someone will want to see the feature, because that's what I'm writing now. So, so yeah, I was very excited. I've only done one other short besides this, and I'm really loving this medium. It's really exciting, and it's a lot easier for me to do since I'm so busy doing all these other ridiculous things for Amazon Prime now. So I'm so busy that I don't know what to do, but I can do these. I can do these in between. I can do this on the weekend,
Michelle?
I rather, like I said earlier, I love this. I find it challenging. I want to be able to tell an impactful story, and in the short amount of time, and I love, being an actor for as long as I have, I guess I just have faith in the fact that my audience will get it if I give it to them. I don't want to answer the question for them. I simply want to pose the question. And so if I can do that and I like to keep pacing up, and I like to, it's all a bit of a challenge. It's challenging. It's a fun challenge for me, but it's also, I give it to my audience to do with it what they will and have the opinion of it that they have, just as long as that they have one, right? And so I don't really, like I said earlier, I played with it, making it longer, and it lost something for not only other readers, but myself. And I kind of don't mind going in there and going bang and getting out. So as much as I want to, early on, especially in my writing, in my education as a writer, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of great writers mentor me in a way. And they're just like, you just got to kill your babies, kill them. Get it out, if it doesn't work, move on. And I just, so even though it's hard, there's so much more to tell, but I'm learning to have that eye of what is the story? What are you trying to convey? Get it in there as best as you can, and then get out,
Okay, great. Shadi.
Everyone said such lovely things. I so much like Dito, Michelle, what you said. I think, you know, theater is the thing I do most of the time, and I have a love and education around cinema, and I can't wait to make more. But short is very much a new playground for me. So I had no other way than like trusting my guts in like when small things in story tells. I think camera is a blessing, and you can show so many things and suggest so many things, and that's the beauty of like so many movies we are all like in love with. And I think our story was about untold love and desires, and for me touch was a big thing and skin was a big thing, and we were constantly trying to communicate with the image, with audience, the things they were not allowed to say to each other. And then my love for choreography and dance, like we have some moments in the movie that was very difficult making it because it's like fall in Block Island in middle of like, you know, cold and wind, and to like a crew in the water. And just for this moment of dance between these two men who can't say, I think my piece is with you. I can't leave you, but I have to. And so I'll say for me, it's always, you tell me that to tell the story in 5 minutes, I'll try to do that. You tell me I have 20 minutes, I'll do it that way. But I think the length of this story is enough and satisfying, as Michelle is kind of telling it with her own work. Yeah, that's my responses.
Great. I know that there are at least two filmmakers here that we've worked with before, but if you all could just tell me briefly about your filmmaking career and sort of where you are in your career. Why don't we start with Shadi?
Yes, of course. I have acted in films in my own country, Iran, and I have like assistant direct and work on films in my country. But in America, the most of my experience is in theater making, and I am graduate from Yale School of Drama on theater directing. But I have a big passion and love for like movies, and I will make it. It's just challenging to enter the industry as we all know it. And I have made like two shorts in this country. One of them is swimming, and the other one is called Eros, that is right now in post-production. And hopefully happily later we'll share with you all.
Oh, great. I look forward to that. Ronnie.
Thank you.
Let's see, where am I in my career? I've up until this point, I've kind of had a rambling career. I feel like some people know pretty early on what they wanted to do. I didn't. I've been working in television and film in some way, shape, or form for like 14 years, but I've had, you know, I was a sound guy, an AC, a camera operator. I did street and documentary photography. A lot of my experience for a long time was in the doc space. So I've done stuff in refugee camps, like the Syrian border. I've worked in like, housing projects for people suffering from like schizophrenia. And it wasn't until my early 30s that I actually started really getting interested in the narrative form of filmmaking. And more specifically, I started being honest with myself that I actually wanted to take the helm of telling those stories. I think for a long time, I was content with existing in far more subordinate roles. And then I started seeing other people that I was working with that I cared about and I respected a lot, but finding myself quietly thinking like, I kind of want to do it different, or I think I do it a little bit different. Not that there was anything wrong with the way that they were doing it, but I just started feeling the need to sort of express my own voice.
Gotcha.
And so I'm at a point now where like I'm lucky that I make my living working in television and film. But in terms of launching my own work, The Makeup was my second short. It was actually my first like scripted piece. I just completed another scripted short, and I've been really working on focusing on my writing work. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Billy.
Well, I was a hair and makeup artist for the beginning of my world, so to speak, here in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, and doing the shows in New York, and a lot of print and all that kind of stuff. And that goes back to 1980 when I started that. So I did that for 25 years. And one of the things that always haunted me was being a filmmaker and creating stories. And I just finally came to a point in my life that, well, I better do it now.
Sure.
I don't have too much more time that I could be kicking around doing what I do, because I often shoot my own stuff. I'm on the floor, I'm above, I'm whatever I'm doing, whatever I need to do, you know, and it takes a lot to your body. And I just said, fine, I'm going to do it. So it's been about 12 years now. And I think you even had my first feature, which was Baby Jane, so many 12 years ago at your film festival. And that was the beginning, really, is when I did that I was like, all right, I'll see if the reviews or if anybody likes it. And thank God people did. And I think Variety and all the different things actually said lots of things about it. So I said, okay, if they think it's good, and I'm going to continue doing this. And it's been a constant, yeah, you know what I mean? It's just been a constant growth and constantly creating, and I just keep on going. Right now I have a food show, I have a bar show, I have a travel show, all those on Amazon Prime and Here TV. And then all in between, I'm trying to create my own product like this one. I'm actually shooting a feature right now that we're actually doing 3 times a month, which I'd never done before, but it was the easiest thing to do during COVID.
Exactly. Wow.
So, and I'm just now editing also another piece, because I also edit for people. I also shoot for people individually. You know, so I write for people. I do whatever, you know, and it all started from no one would help me, so I should figure it all out for myself.
Gotcha.
And then you kind of like, oh, I'm actually not bad at this. So, and then people, I remember the first time I was hired to be a DP, I'm like going, what? Why would you want to hire me to be a DP? That's not what I do. And they went, what do you mean? Didn't you do that last feature? And I went, yeah, but that's not what I do. You know?
Michelle?
I love this.
Well, I want Billy's stamina.
I 100%. You didn't tell me about what you before. I know you got this.
Well, I mean, my background is mostly in acting, but certainly, I mean, I've been doing it since I was 19 years old. So you do the math. Oh. But anyway, I mean, I just love this medium. I grew up in a beautiful era of television where stories were impactful, and I'm so grateful to still be a part of it. And I just think a normal extension of my creativity rests and lies in the in directing. I think I've always sort of had a director's eye. And, you know, I've already shadowed a director for television, and I want to continue to do that. And I hope to start directing television. And at the same time, this is what I learned as an artist. And I think, you know, everyone is sort of touching upon it. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop acting. It doesn't mean that I'm going to stop writing. It doesn't mean you know, there's a certain point as an artist you realize, and I think, you know, Billy summed it up, is that you enjoy it all. You know, there is no title to it. There is no I'm a this. There is a wonderful serenity in being able to say, I'm an artist. I'm a creator. So I want to create.
That's great. I have one more quick question. So
what's so inspiring? I gotta interrupt you, Jim. Everyone here, y'all are so inspiring.
It's exciting, isn't it?
This is a great panel. I mean, we're on minute 41. I mean, this is great. We're just gonna one more quick question. What is I mean, where will your film be going from here? I mean, do you have hopes to land it somewhere, or what is the future of your film? If it's festivals, just where's your film going next? We'll start with Ronnie.
Ooh. I mean, right now, I think that we're really focusing on doing the festival route. I think festivals are a really remarkable space for film, because not only is it an opportunity for a lot of people to see your work, but it's also an opportunity for you to engage in communities. And that's actually what's beautiful about festivals is it's, you know, depending upon what kinds of festivals, sometimes you're engaging in multiple communities all at once. Like, you know, something like this, you're talking about the LGBTQ plus community on top of the filmmakers community, on top, like, you know, on top of regional communities. And so there are remarkable ways to connect with other, you know, creators, to see other people's work and be inspired by it, and potentially to get to share in a dialogue with other people. And so I think we've been really focusing on that for right now. And then like, obviously everyone wants to loves the idea of it, finding a place that has like a permanent home where other people can continue to find this. I know Eric and Richard, who are the writers and the producers and the super, super talented people, are definitely interested in taking the premise of the short and they're toying with expanding into something I think for them, they're thinking, I don't want to speak too much because I don't know what I'm supposed to say, but like I know that they're teasing out the idea of it existing in a larger form, because I think there's a lot that can exist in the story and the continued story of these two characters.
Great.
But yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, yeah. Michelle.
I'd love it to live on a place where it can reach a diversive audience, HBO Max, PBS. I'd like it to help that way. I really want to be able to use this as, I want information to come out. I really do want it, just like I did with my first short Slipaway. I got so many beautiful emails and it reached around the world, and I want to be able to do that with this. And certainly, it's next going to the San Francisco Latino Film Festival. It was just in the New York Latino Film Festival, currently in this beautiful festival. And, I just want to take a moment to thank you, Jim. You are such a conveyor and collector of just wonderful people, and you managed to create such a beautiful community in Atlanta and beyond, and you're just a magnificent lover of film and the arts. And I just wanted to say that to you, because it's people like you that help that help keep this stuff alive and give us a forum to to be able to bridge that to other people. So thank you.
Thanks for the kind words. Thank you for everything you've done. I really appreciate it. Billy.
Yeah, again, I want to thank you as well. It's just so wonderful to have you as part of your wonderful film festival as well, and great to see you again, and always a pleasure, always a pleasure to be a part of anything you do. What was the question again? What's going on with the film?
Exactly.
It's actually on Amazon Prime right now, along with the making of, as well as it's on Here TV. The big thing that we're pushing it, and where it's going right now, is it was already screened at the Museum of Tolerance here in Los Angeles. And that's the big focus, is to get into all the different museums, the Jewish museums and the Museum of Tolerances around the world. And that's what's been happening. That's what we've been asking for. Even rabbis have been getting in touch with us because they want to screen it for their people. And that's what I made it for, was so that people could start understanding this within their own people. I mean, I can't imagine that everyone in some part of their world does know someone who's related or whatever, that's a LGBT person, and they need to see where history was and can be, and this is important for that. So again, I'm writing the feature, and that's my goal, is to turn this into a feature. There's 3 main characters, and they will be completely fleshed out, so you can see what brought them to that particular place in time, and to also really show very clearly that nothing is black and white. And I think my short says that very clearly on these 3 different characters that you would think would be a victim and somebody terrible and someone even worse. But then when you see it unfold, you realize they're just humans trying to figure it out.
Exactly. And Shadi.
We are participating in some festivals as here that we are very thankful to be part of, and so glad, and my pleasure to meet all of you. It's wonderful to expand the community, and also I think we are more than anything trying to spread the story out, and anywhere that is possible to leave the film in order for more audience to reach out. It is our biggest end goal. But for now, we are waiting for different festivals to hear. We're part of some international festivals, and hopefully we'll see what happens.
Great. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you all so much. The program is Everything Under Rainbow Shorts. It is an astonishing program. Thank you so much for joining us. I wish you all continued good luck, and thanks for a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks all of you.
Thank you.
Wonderful to meet all of you.
Thanks.
Yes, you too.